Welcome to the Explain It podcast. I'm your host, Ingryd Hernandez. Today we have a very, very special podcast. I swear I say that every single time. But the reason I find this one to be ultra special is because the buzzword out in town, in Investor Town, if you guys have been there, is co-living. Like if I say anything co-living, people get super, super excited. I think it's the new ASMR for investors. If you say co-living. And so the guy who I know to be an amazing co-living operator and a fantastic capital raiser, an amazing all-around human being, great father, a wannabe carnivore, pretty close to it. Without further ado, Mr. Michael Mnatsakanian.
The crowd goes wild.
And the crowd goes wild. How's it going, Michael?
I'm doing all right. I actually just did a whole training right before this on co-living deal analysis. So perfect timing to talk about co-living.
Okay, so you've been primed.
Oh, I'm ready for it. Let's go. I'm gonna hit everything. I'm excited. I don't even know what the format is going to be, but I know co-living is going to be the main thing. So I'm looking forward to it. How are we doing this?
I'm doing fantastic. So guess what?
What's up?
I actually have a co-living under contract right now.
Oh, congrats in Arizona and Phoenix.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So I'm excited for all the folks that are here. We got Giancarlo Tavares. He's like Hola Power Duo. He's great. Investor out of California. I got to meet him during the No One Left Behind Challenge last month, which is coming up next week. So make sure you guys are following my YouTube, following Pace. We're going to go live and go through the No One Left Behind Challenge stuff. Calling agents, getting deals done. And hopefully if we say it to the universe enough, we'll get some co-living opportunities. So yes, the house that I have under contract out here in South Phoenix is a co-living opportunity, easily makes 7 bedrooms in it, has access to 2 bathrooms, although I think the right approach is this, and I would love to talk to your strategy about it. Right. So we'll definitely get there. So I really want your feedback because you're Mr. Co-living now, maybe whether you like it or not.
That's what I was telling everyone. It was super investor for a while. And now it's like co-living. Yeah. Like all the stuff I really talk about, what I'm known for, I guess, more so I thought was deal analysis. I explain things as an engineer just a little bit differently than like the visionary minded person. I mean, it's more so like more step-by-step and like numbers focused. And then so deal analysis and then capital raising were kind of the big 2. And then now it's like, okay, co-living. And technically, yes, I don't know if I have the most co-living rentals in sub 2. I mean, Pace probably always wins that. I got a lot of co-living rentals. I love co-living. I've been doing it since 2023. And I think maybe before we get into anything, would it be beneficial to you and maybe to the audience if I explained why I think co-living is head and shoulders, at least right now, above every other management strategy?
Yeah. Before you get into that, which I want to give a few folks some time to get in here and remind everybody, if you're watching on Instagram, get your asses to YouTube because we have quite a few users in Instagram right now, and they really should come over to the YouTube channel. Your YouTube or my YouTube, whichever. How did you get started? Let's have like the 2-minute conversation of how folks who are maybe have some similarities to you, like how do they get started in this real estate business?
Okay, cool. So just to put it out there, this May is going to be my 5-year mark. And since I bought my first real estate investment deal, I currently own over $22 million. And we're about to buy another $1.4 million portfolio of co-living deals, so 4 properties. Just to say that this thing can happen fast if you continue to execute, learn, level up, skill up, all that good stuff. However, the way it started was I started learning in 2018, and it took me 18 months of analyzing deals and analyzing deals and analyzing deals, and nothing to show for it besides analyzing deals. I was learning, I was reading books, I was on podcast, like I was listening to podcasts, and I was analyzing deals. I thought I was doing the work, but I had no real estate to show for it until I went to my first meetup, connected with actual real estate investors in the market that I wanted to invest in. Now we can do that virtually, which is awesome. Like we have the best community ever. A lot of us are in sub 2, so you have the best community ever. But it was that combination of learning and then connecting with people, which then allowed me to implement and take action. Buy my first property, which was a house hack, a 2-unit property. I used my VA loan as a veteran, or at that time active duty. Bought a 2-unit property, lived in 1 unit, my wife and I, and then rented out the other one. So we pretty much renovated the other one quickly, rented it out. In our unit, we were renovating it while we lived in it, and then basically swapped, and then did that with a 4-unit property. So we did it again with a 4-unit, started learning about cash wholesaling, started doing some of that, started learning about seller financing. So just continue to level up. Paying for education is what I learned was one of the most important things that I did. Is you could either learn for yourself, and you're more than welcome to. I tried and I did for a while. However, the most important thing you can do, in my opinion, if you're going to take action, is to pay for education, learn it, and then implement it. That'll take decades of what you would have to learn through trial and error, and condense it literally into weeks, months. I mean, maybe even years, right? But like there's no way I could be this person who is a master at deal analysis, really solid at creative financing, co-living, all these things through just what I could brute force learn myself through books, paying through education, paying for education, because you're paying one way or another. Either you're paying with time or you're paying with money. What I learned is I'd much rather pay through money to expedite my journey than just try to figure it out all on my own independently and just take the longest, hardest path. In my opinion, a lot of us are already spending a lot of time and energy on trying to be real estate investors or scale as real estate investors. Why make it harder than it needs to be? I understand everyone has the money to invest in education. However, if you want to get your end result, try to get there as quickly as possible. Like I don't think most of us want to do this thing forever. Like it's fun and all, but like the goal is the freedom that comes with it, not to just take the long, slow, hard path if you don't have to. And that's kind of
1,000%. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love that you actually brought that to surface, because I had a very pivotal moment this year where my husband and I had a very strong conversation where it's like, Ingryd, you got into real estate so that we could have more freedom, because I was a workaholic in my W-2. Mm-hmm. And I'm not seeing that translating into your calendar. And that is a really hard conversation to have, especially a networker like me, mm-hmm. And have my husband, have the courage to bring it up to me. And then that really helped reorient where our goals were and what I was focusing on, because mm-hmm. you're absolutely right. If you're getting into real estate to have more time freedom, you have to figure out what lane are you going to be in and how are you going to mitigate that through the investments you're making, through the relationships you're creating, so that you can buy your time back. And so right now, I am super grinding right now. And part of my strategy is to have a few of these co-living. So that's why I was super excited to have you on here, because part of that expectation is that I shouldn't just be buying real estate for tax strategy. I feel like real estate is my domain, but it needs to be smart real estate that's going to pay me so that I can buy back my time and spend more time with my family and travel and do the things that I want to do. So I love the way that you brought that up. Mm-hmm.
And that's the absolute truth. Like, there's going to obviously be lots of seasons of hustle. Like, mm-hmm. It's not forever, right? Sometimes you work. I mean, when I was active duty military, and then, I had to be at work at 4 to work out, and then done late, working before that on my real estate business, working after work on my real estate business. There are seasons of hustle, and that would way more than you normally would, but it's all an investment in your future self if you are using that strategically. Like you said, I know the thing that I want, and a lot of people want passive income. Well, there's very few ways to get passive income in real estate. It's buying and holding assets or lending to other people. And you need to have a bunch of money to lend and have that fairly passive for you. So then people lose kind of focus on what they're trying to do. They chase this shiny object. They connect with a million people, which is great. They pay for a million different pieces of education, which is fine. But like the idea is like, what is it that you actually want to accomplish? Who are the people you need to know that are doing that thing? What is the education? What are the missing pieces you need for that end goal? For a lot of people, they want to be buy investors, but they're pursuing wholesaling or fix and flipping. I don't know, like, and I get lost in the sauce sometimes too. Sometimes I want to talk to sellers and agents directly, but I just have to remind myself, well, I'm doing all this for financial freedom. Financial freedom comes through semi-passive cash flow, right? I don't call it passive income anymore. It's not. It's semi-passive. There's always going to be work that I got to do, but it comes from that. And how do I get that? By buying and holding assets. To get assets, money, and deals. Like once you reverse engineer what you want, and then it's like, well, how do I get more money? How do I get more deals? Well, I get my deals from wholesalers. I get my money from capital partners. Like it starts becoming much more simple. You just now have to execute your time and energy on that and not get distracted with everything. Because then otherwise you end up in phases like you and I have both gone through and still working on, which is like you're spending a lot of time doing all these things. Like, what does this have to do with my end goal? What the hell?
Right.
Like, I could just enjoy my life instead. That's why I always tell myself, like, you could just be enjoying your life instead of doing this thing. You can go do whatever you actually want to do with your time, not another call for something random, you know? Boundaries. So
totally. And I hear you. One of the things that I mitigated that in my own life is that I now run a Zoom for sub 2 on Wednesdays where I try to like answer everybody's questions all at once instead of giving my singular time to a single person who may be struggling. And that way, when they ask a question, we're solving a lot of people's questions all at once. And then I'm also buying back my time because instead of spending time on 10 different or 20 different calls every week, I'm doing it with one. But that also means that I have to create boundaries. And it's why we have this amazing podcast too. One of the things that I love about this podcast is having experts like yourself, Michael, who come on here, explain things to everyone about how this actually works. And then they don't feel like they have to be a part of a specific group in order to get some of this information. Part of my goal is to not be a gatekeeper. So I really appreciate you being on here. Okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm just gonna. I do the same thing too. So like, I'm just dropped the link for my free school community called Wealth Through Real Estate. I've got like people ask me all the time, help with deal analysis, help with what calculator do I use? How do they get access to the calculator that I use? All these things, I provide you all that. I show you the roadmap of financial freedom through real estate investing, how to analyze traditional deals, creative deals, all the things people ask me a lot. I try to create some type of video or course or whatever for free to share on that. And then that's what my live weekly calls. Like what I just got off of right before this was my live weekly call. People ask, analyzing co-living deals and how do I restructure seller financing? And someone asked about the balloon payment. Cool, I just answer that. And now even if 5 people watch it, well, that's better than one, right? That's better than one person. Now it's 5 people, maybe 10 or 20 people watch it in the future. And that's kind of a lot of what Pace taught me. That's part of that, those boundaries in a sense is it's not even, yes, it buys back my time, which is great, but then I get to help a lot more people all at one time, which is phenomenal. So love it. All right, cool.
Giancarlo, it is on the screen right now because Michael and I have different social media streams right now. It's actually coming from Michael's YouTube versus like my YouTube. As an example. So, okay, cool. So go to school.com/wealth-rei/about. Awesome. So let's get to it. So you got into real estate as somebody who was in the military at the time. You've since retired. Now you are officially a veteran versus active duty. And then what caused you to start focusing on co-living?
What caused me to focus on co-living? So initially, what really opened my eyes to it was the fact that we had a failed short-term rental. We bought a short-term rental with a capital partner. It was in Atlanta. It was a property that was did not perform the way that we wanted to, fairly cash flow neutral. So in that time in 2023, we decided, okay, well, what do we want to do here? I don't think it's going to get much better it was like those mom and pop style short-term rentals, those don't work very much anymore. It's the experienced ones. And I have multi-million-dollar properties as well, and those crush short-term rentals. So it's not dead, but like the average short-term rental that makes a bunch of money, that's not like common. It was more of a COVID thing than current. Yeah. So then what we did is I looked at it and I said, well, what are other options we can do for this property? We can either sell it to someone, because it was a great 3% interest rate. We could sell it to someone else who wants to live in it and essentially wrap it to them. Or I'm hearing about this thing called pad split in Atlanta is where they started. So let me learn it. Let me learn about this thing and see if it's something I want to implement here. Was property at the time was 3 bedrooms, 2 bath. That's not really the ideal co-living. And we were able to add 1 more bedroom, getting it just slightly above cash flow positive, like with the way that I analyze, with heavier reserves and property management costs and, you know, all that stuff, the extent that I do that not everyone does. I'm a more conservative deal analyzer. I'd rather make more money than less by analyzing a little bit more conservatively. And although this property ended up not being even a phenomenal co-living property, because it was making more than it was a short-term rental and more stable, it still wasn't the returns that I was looking for my partner and I. We decided we were going to sell that property, which is great, but that was the proof of concept that I needed, because within days we had these 4 bedrooms rented out right away, and we were able to sell that essentially as a business to someone else for them to then take over and for them to self-manage, and the returns were better for them. It's not all my numbers, even if my team is managing it, we're still analyzing it with property management. So basically a failed short-term rental, turned co-living, which was an okay co-living, sold that, but that was a proof of concept that I needed to say, okay, this is a really cool strategy. How do I now leverage this strategy and this platform, Pad Split? How do I leverage it more effectively for the right properties? So instead of doing properties under 5 bedrooms, kind of my minimum is 6 bedrooms, and it really depends on the cash flow or cash on cash return. But I want properties that are 6 bedrooms or more, and my sweet spot is that 7 to 8 bedroom, where we're generating $1,000 to $2,000 a month in cash flow, allowing me more easily to raise money on these deals. Raise money on the deals, get solid cash flow for myself and for our partner. So
what I want to reinforce to everybody, what you just heard Michael communicate to you, even though you may miss it, is that he pivoted. When you start entrepreneurship and you start real estate investing, when you do a specific strategy like short-term renting, and Michael communicated that to everybody, it doesn't mean you're going to have extreme success, but you have to leverage those opportunities to learn more and pivot your way out of them so that you can make something out of something that may be struggling or is nothing. So I commend you, Michael, for instead of, and I hear this a lot because I'm an Arizona regional leader for sub 2, where people just want to like give up and not think through problem solving and what other opportunities might be there. Co-living is a very viable opportunity. I did my very first co-living in 2022, in December of 2022. I call it the white collar co-living though, because it's a professional co-living house. So the avatar, the client I'm serving there, are all like entrepreneurs and professionals. So they're not blue collar. They're mostly working out of their computers. Like literally, if you ever go to that house, it's super quiet. And when you're like, where's everybody at? In their rooms working. Like that's the culture that they have in there.
And funny enough, I love that demographic. The young working professional is one of my favorite. Like, it's not like, I know your property. It's not like necessarily catered to that, but my lesson learned from that failed short-term rental. And I put that lightly because it was like an okay. It was failed in my regards. It's not like it was disastrous.
It was failed to your standards.
My standards and returns I was looking for my partner and myself. But that failed short-term rental to co-living is actually something I commonly do now intentionally. So I'll find other people's failed short-term rentals that are really nice properties. They're really nicely renovated. They're usually larger. They're in better areas. They have cool amenities. And then the young working professionals love those ones. And those rent out very easily because they're just head and shoulders above kind of the C class, C and D class co-living. This is like elevated co-living for those young working professionals. They rent faster. They tend to be better tenants. The tenants prefer to have a great place to live. But honestly, these guys they're saving money on rent so they can go eat out more. They can go have experiences and all that. So all they're doing is they're coming home and maybe they're working in their room, But they're really there to sleep. They're not really cooking a lot. They're door dashing and eating out, and they're saving that money to then go and enjoy their life as opposed to just paying it all on rent for a house that they don't even need, right? So I really do like that young working professional style of property.
Yeah. But hold on, I have to brag about the amenities this property has.
Oh yeah, please, it's sick.
So our house is almost 5,000 square feet. It's a 4-car garage. It has a gym. It has a podcast room. It has a hot tub. It has a pool. It has a cold plunge, a couple fire pits, patio, couple of living room spaces, and then a bar that they don't even use because nobody really drinks in that house because they're really, really serious about their future. And we call it the HUD bar. So every time they close a deal, like, and that's where their paperwork goes to get filed. But absolutely right. There's especially this generation values their time and their money very, very differently. And so ownership is not necessarily something that they're aiming for right away, right out of college. It's more about their career and their experiences. And so being able to give them a product that meets those needs, it can be very lucrative because their monthly payment is generally higher than a blue collar avatar where you're literally taking away the communal spaces. And maybe we could talk a little bit about that, Michael. Like I would say the more pad split centric model. I will give Abraham Gray out of Atlanta. He's like, those are rooming houses. I've been doing that way before pad split was ever here. And actually he talked about it when he was on our podcast a while ago. And how that is serving a very different kind of avatar, a very different client. So maybe you could walk us through that a little.
So what in particular?
So how the types of co-living that you're focusing on, like what that kind of environment looks, right? I just describe an environment that, like, if I was single, I would definitely be living there. Cause I'm like, what? I got a gym, a podcast room, a pool. It's a place to be, you know what I'm saying? But, for the types of co-living that maybe you're scaling, how are those different and serving a different client?
Yeah, perfect. So yours is way on the extreme end of like compared to what I do. Cause I wish I could explain to people very simply, like I'm not passionate about real estate. I don't love houses. I actually freaking hate houses. Like in theory, cause it's like, oh, I got to worry about this roof and this and that, like all this crap. What I care about is the real estate is a phenomenal asset to be able to provide me the cash flow to be financially free. What I also care about is I genuinely care about providing a high value, high quality house to my tenants and treating them with respect. Things I wish, a lot of landlords did, and treating them with respect, providing them high quality housing, and the team that I have. I love all of those things and the people I'm able to help and impact. But the houses themselves, I'm not overly, it's not like I love houses. So with that being said, is I try to make my business model, and that probably explains my my success or my scalability. I try to make it as scalable as possible. So when you add like really on the extreme end amenities, it's less scalable because it's maybe a little bit more work and maintenance and cleaning. What I try to do is just provide that like really good housing, clean, taken care of, their own room, their own space. Some of them are more, depending on the market, some of them are more catered, like they have a pool, like we have one in Florida that has a pool. People say never do that, but it's got a pool. It was a short-term rental conversion, which was awesome because it photographs really well. The furniture is really nice, but there's not like a ton of extra amenities. It's got the pool, a little bit of patio furniture, a common area space, the kitchen, but then it's really the bedrooms. And really the way that we set up almost every bedroom, if possible, is a queen bed at minimum, even though that's not a requirement. You can go smaller, but queen bed, we feel like is a respectable bed size for people. And then a desk if possible. Like that's the amenities that we provide per room, depending on the location and the cost of the house. We would try to put in a mini fridge, or we'll put an extra fridge in the kitchen so people have sufficient space. There's space of the house. We'll have some extra storage space for them, some common area storage space. Not every single property has a like a living room area, or definitely not a dining room area, because what we're doing is we're taking properties that are a minimum 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,500 square foot, ideally bigger than that, and we're converting them into that 6, 7, 8-bed properties. So we're taking out a lot of the common area because it's a nice to have. It's a nice amenity for people, and maybe it'll get your properties rented out a little bit quicker. However, it also causes potentially more trouble as well. It's more maintenance stuff to worry about, more who's gonna have to clean that, or who's not cleaning that, or who's spending a bunch of time watching TV in the living room. And, the people, whether it's on the nicer end or the, our B type properties or our C type properties, they're really there for the nice room and to save money, right? They're there to save money, have their own space, have a nice room. And they're not really usually banking on the common areas, but there's certain properties that we buy that have amenities that kind of elevate the properties, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Amani Mustafa is asking, is it 1 bed per room, or do you have roommates for maybe a cheaper price? So
I think the pad split rule is that you can only have 1 person per room. And that's kind of what we stick with as well. If we do allow 2 for a room, it's because it's a couple. It's not ideal, but it's because it's a couple and they're going to have their own private bathroom. That's the kind of only exception, but I'm not trying to make this like we have sober living homes. We rent out our properties to nonprofits or Oxford Homes, and they rent it out and then they rent it. They have their own tenants. They tend to have tenants, or they tend to have multiple people in one room. But for me, for the co-living model, we have 1 person per room. It minimizes potential issues. And so that's kind of the main thing that we do. It's like 1 person per room, 6 to 8 people, minimize common area space, provide them quality furniture, quality house, quality renovations, all the things that you would want on your property. You want a really nice property. It's you own the freaking asset. And the nicer your properties, the nicer your tenants are going to treat your property. If you treat your properties and your tenants with respect, they tend to do the same in return. Is that always the case? No, but you're increasing the likelihood of that. If you communicate with them effectively, they'll tend to communicate effectively with you. Once again, is that always the case? No, but you're increasing your likelihood. And that's kind of what we try to do. Good quality housing, really engage with our tenants and make sure that things are taken care of. There's maintenance issues, handle those things, all that kind of stuff. And by putting more people in one room or like trying to maximize every dollar, that's not the case. For me, it's more on the scalability. I'd rather, instead of trying to get an extra $300 on this one property, I'd rather go find another property that's going to generate me over $1,000 a month cash flow, going to provide 5 times that in ownership benefits and provide, capital partners and all that, more investment opportunities, and try to squeeze out every little penny by like maximizing the number of people in a room and all that, especially if it results in more work.
Just real quick for Tyler Cavan, who is a fan of the show and has been one of my clients on the buy side. So congrats to Tyler for buying his new house out in Scottsdale. But Tyler is asking, do you have a co-living calculator? Because I know we kind of ran through that, those things that you offer your communities.
So in my paid super investor community, is a paid community, I have the super creative finance calculator. It comes with every time someone joins, they get lifetime access to it. I also sell one on my website, but I do have like michaelmnat.com, but I do have a free one in the Wealth Through Real Estate community, as well as in this link. It's basically my buy box. Well, it is my buy box plus a couple other tools and resources, which has a free calculator in there. It currently does not have co-living on there. It's got long-term rental on there. You can do, traditional sub-2 seller finance hybrid analysis. I'm going to be revamping both my paid and free calculators to include co-living for everyone. The main benefit of the paid one is it makes capital raising a breeze, and you can do more management strategies. There's a lot more to it. It's like super, super powerful that allows you to be able to better analyze your deals, understand the long-term analysis, and then raise the money on it much more simply, like raise the money for it much more simply. But it's not a necessity. So the free calculator will have that. I just don't have a timetable on that for now, but I do have a free calculator in there for you guys. So, it's pretty solid. If you Google it, free creative finance real estate investing calculator, I think it's like one of the number one. Me and Jerry Norton fight for that top spot, basically.
I love that. Cool. So Joe Zena wants to know, where do you guys feel that these co-living locations are geographically? So what are some of the geographical elements that somebody has to be aware of so that they can think about doing co-living?
Right. That's a great question. So this is one of my actual favorite benefits of co-living, is because the best long-term rentals tend to be small properties, not worth a lot of money, in smaller, more rural areas where the rent to price ratio is really high. And maybe you're getting a few $100 of cash flow, but you're really getting minimal ownership benefits because the properties are smaller, not in a high appreciation markets, whatever. On the alternative side for co-living, it's quite honestly the opposite. The best co-living properties are in major markets, like major states, major cities in those states, in better locations of that city. And it's better properties. It tends to be bigger properties in better locations, right? The state, the city, like wherever it's physically located, those properties tend to appreciate more because they're worth more. They tend to, they have bigger debt, right? And typically if it's creatively financed, your tenants are paying down larger amount of debt on your behalf, adding more to your debt pay down, adding to your equity. And because it's a bigger property, you get more tax benefits, but also you get much higher cash flow with these properties, right? For $100 to $300 of cash flow on a long-term rental, I don't buy co-living that generate less than $1,000 cash flow, and the majority of mine generate between $1,500 to $2,000. So then that's enough for me to be able to share those profits with my capital partners as well. So with that being said, it's got to be in markets that are great markets, that are typically primary markets. You got some in secondary markets, like if there's a major city like Atlanta, there's a Decatur, there's around the major markets, like I'm open to those as well. We had one on our contract that ended up not working out, unfortunately, because the seller said they were in arrears, but they're actually in bankruptcy, whatever. So that one didn't work out. A little bit of wasted time and money. But major markets. So, I mean, honestly, the cheat code is pad split. If you're not using pad split, I'm dropping the link in here. If you're not using pad split, here's my link. You can sign up. I don't care that you ever use pad split, but they have tools on there that allow you to see all the markets that they are operating in. If pad split, a company that is catered and completely geared towards co-living, is investing tons of money in marketing these marketing costs for these areas so they can get tenants there, then those are more viable markets. They're doing the research for you. Essentially, it's like, I don't know if you've heard of like the Whole Foods or KFC or
the feasibility studies that are done by major companies like Walmart, Starbucks. Like if you want a really high appreciating property, go where there's Starbucks. By the way, my house, my primary home, is surrounded by like 4 or 5 Starbucks.
There you go. You've probably seen the appreciation. Like, because they're doing all that research for you. Same with Pats, but they're doing the research for me. They're investing their time, money, and energy into determining what is a good market for them to focus on. And then they're providing a ton of data saying, hey, there's this many properties in this market. This many are coming online. This many people in the last 30 days have searched for, I could even screen share, but have searched for co-living room on their platform. They say, what is the average occupancy, right? Like what percentage is on average are the properties occupied? How long does it take for the first tenant to move in on average? How long does it take for the property to be 80% full? They tell you how much does the property rent for with a shared bathroom, with a private bathroom. They give you all that data. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheels. It's not very scalable. What I try to do is learn from them and leverage the tools and resources they have, plus their money and their market research to then grow my portfolio. Like I said, I'm not trying to work necessarily harder than I have to. I'm trying to get the result of passive income, of cash flow, not spin in circles like with nothing to show for it. Because I did that for 18 months and I didn't like that. I had numbers on a spreadsheet. I had no properties. I prefer owning the properties that generate cash flow, not numbers on a spreadsheet or Zoom calls or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and arguably when you got clear on your direction, it was, and you already had a very credible background, right? Where folks are like, hey, I know Michael, he's a good guy, really smart, very engineer minded. And because of that, I want to invest with him. And then when you can clearly give them a target to say, we're going after co-living, then it's way easier to get what you're looking for, because now people know how to soldier for you and find those opportunities. Now to kind of, by the way, real estate investing comes with inherent risks, right? When short-term rentals became popular, which by the way, short-term rentals have been going on forever, but they became popularized when technology met the opportunity. But I still remember using VRBO like in 2008 or something like that, when we used to go out with our family, when Airbnb didn't necessarily exist. and then all the regulations came, right? But so I just want to add some context on there, because Deborah's question is, there's been issues that people have seen in Florida where the local government is trying to limit or erase co-living properties. What are you seeing as a co-living owner? And I think you own in Florida, don't you?
I own a couple in Florida. So awesome. This is another reason why I primarily, the co-living properties that I own are in pad split markets. Once again, the same way pad split is spending a bunch of time, money, and energy determining which markets they're going to be in, targeting, marketing towards potential tenants and all that good stuff. Well, it would be very detrimental to their business model if they're no longer able to operate in a market that they invested a bunch of time, money, and energy. So what they do in their core markets is they will literally work with you legally on your behalf for the they will legally work. Sorry, I was reading the comments on your behalf to challenge those things if someone is trying to limit your ability to rent out. But another benefit of when you are renting through pad split is actually the tenants that live in the house are not tenants. They are members of the pad split platform, and my only tenant is pad split. So I'm leasing my property to pad split. Pad split is allowing members to live in the rooms of the properties, and they're paying a membership fee for that. So it's kind of like a way to circumvent that. I
love loopholes.
About pad split. On another hand, I do want to say that it's ironic, right? The red states, Texas, Florida, are the ones that are pushing the hardest to draw regulations and lines against all this stuff. When you always hear about blue states and this and that, but it's the red states that are really like Denver just said, yeah, freaking affordable housing, let's go. We need affordable housing. Bring it on. And that kind of is beneficial in the sense of when you think about short-term rentals, whether it's true or not, and I don't think it's actually true from like a numbers perspective, but they make short-term rentals this boogeyman. People are buying properties in your market. That's why housing is unaffordable and yada, yada, whatever. It's because of these short-term rental owners, when in reality, the numbers don't really bear that out. Certain markets are oversaturated with short-term rentals, fine. But the majority, it's not this thing. But it's really easy to say, hey, they are taking away housing from you for tourists to come in. It's easy for politicians, for people, for all that to champion this cause. Like nuclear. It's like, oh, it's this scary boogeyman, nuclear. In reality, the facts don't show that, but whatever. It's a whole other thing. But it's easy to champion the perspective that this is a problem. Well, for someone to champion co-living being a problem, or this, allowing multiple people in the same area or in the same property, well, it's a much harder challenge to champion, like politically and regulation wise, to be like, okay, well, I know we suck at affordable housing, where prices are going up like crazy. We can't do anything about it. But what we're going to do is we're going to challenge the people trying to solve this problem. It's easy to champion against short-term rentals. It's a lot harder to champion against affordable housing options in communities that really need it. That's another reason why it's so imperative to be buying properties in these better locations that then also have this affordable housing issue, because you're providing a solution that the government doesn't know how, and if they do it, they cost and takes way longer. Yeah, they just suck at it, and it's so much harder for people to champion against that than like the obvious like short-term rental. So I think short-term rentals will continue to have a bad rap, whether it's true or not in regards to what they're doing to housing. Whereas co-living, it's a lot harder for a variety of reasons for people to champion against that. So hopefully that was a variety of my take on the various perspectives where I'm not overly worried about it.
Yeah.
But the irony is the red versus blue, like which states are really pushing this affordable housing, which others like, no, like we have issues with it.
Yeah. Deborah, I would say this is where it's important to have a risk factor assessment, one, and then like two, get involved with your local politics. Like, just like Michael mentioned, they're trying to politicize things. And in my opinion, if you can champion this with your local representatives, this is how you can make a difference in your community. Not necessarily just the real estate aspect, right? Like, hey, I'm going to have affordable housing. But what if you created a marketing plan with your local representatives and they would put their name behind it so that they can also ride your coattails because you're making a difference locally? I think, in my opinion, especially real estate investing, we are so scared of getting involved politically that we don't realize that it's actually to our advantage when we can start having some of this influence locally and be able to use that as a tool to be able to do more of what is actually good for our society. So that's my little rant in that regard. But Mike Johnson does have some good feedback that apparently Texas is voting on the frat house bill, and it would prohibit cities from limiting the number of non-related residents in a house. So in the state of Arizona, a home can be zoned single family house because it's expected that you'd have less, only up to 3 people living in the property can be unrelated. But again, my property that I run, it has those same, what we call CCNRs, covenants and conditions and whatever that stands for. But it really depends on how well you run your house, because your nosy neighbors don't necessarily care if you're running it really well, in my opinion, and then you don't cause a ruckus. So
that tends to be like the properties that I've seen that they've challenged specifically. It's very much about that. It's like, well, these people are like, you're cramming way too many people into a house, or these bedrooms don't have windows, like they're fire hazard, or it's a hazard if there was a fire. All of these things, there's all of these ways that you can minimize the impact. And for me, like, I don't like to buy in HOA communities. I don't want to deal with an HOA because they can more easily change the rules. I don't want to deal with that. And what I do is I'm not trying to overly maximize the number of people in the house. I'm trying to make sure they have great housing, and I'm trying to make sure that we're following, even if not every bedroom addition is permitted, I'm trying to make sure that we're following all of the actual same rules as if it was going to be permitted. So like having the windows or the egress windows and things like that. It's when you start becoming a nuisance or a hazard to the people there or around you, that's when it starts becoming the biggest issue. And especially in HOA areas, because everything's a nuisance to them. I do like one thing that Kara said. Really grateful that co-living and the investors running this are solving an affordable living issue. And I wholeheartedly agree with you, because not only is co-living a great investment, right, for us as real estate investors, but we're also providing a solution. And because it's such a great investment, you're going to see more and more larger entities go into this asset class. And it's so much better. It's kind of like the Cody Sanchez stuff. Instead of small business, it's affordable housing. It's better that we, as people who actually care about people and are taking care of our properties, are the ones doing it, before it's this whole slumlord major corporation who's 50 steps apart and they're just like trying to maximize every penny, whereas we can still get solid returns and provide great housing and take care of the people that we're doing this for. Like, I think it's way better that we, as individuals, as smaller people, yes, we have LLCs, we are corporations, whatever, but you know what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about multi-billion-dollar funds and whatever, versus us who are, we're collectively buying a couple of these properties and renting them out. It's way better that we do it than these major corporations or the government or no one.
Yeah. We're mom and pop investors is how I call it. So it's like, hey, we're super localized, and yes, we want to maximize returns, but we also want to see a difference in our own communities because they're in our backyards for the most part. So Elizabeth is asking, now I'm assuming do you leverage pad split or do you manage it differently?
Both, but the majority of what I do for the sake of scalability is pad split. Could we self-manage? Yes. And we have some properties in markets that we do self-manage. Some of them were before it became a pad split market. And now they are. It's like, well, we're crushing it. We don't need to do that. Some people almost exclusively do their own management, or they pay property management outside of, like, separate from pad split. Mm-hmm. We leverage pad split. Like, if I was to talk about kind of the core of my investing strategy, is like scalability is like a big part of it. So could I make more money by self-managing as opposed to leveraging pad split? Sure, I can make a little bit more money, but they save a lot of time and energy in finding tenants and all the other protections, but they save a lot of time and energy in finding tenants, allowing me to spend less time on operations, more on growth. And that's kind of my strategy, is how do I spend, it's the same thing of like, could I buy deals by directly working with sellers and agents and doing all my own direct acquisitions? Sure, but it's more inefficient than buying deals from wholesalers and renegotiating them at times and then buying those deals. Yes, it costs me an assignment fee, but the alternative is going to cost me time and money and energy to directly acquire these deals directly through sellers and agents. So kind of, I try to really focus on scalability, and leveraging pad split is a big part of that.
Well, and arguably, if you are someone trying to get into this business, you have to think like an owner. And what Michael just depicted to us is how thinking like an owner works. Why do we have a list of tired landlords? Well, we have a list of tired landlords because they didn't actually run their business like owners. Ideally, you're putting operations in place where you're not impacting your time and energy, or if you are, it's in the things you love to do. I don't know, like a cool podcast like this one. And that way you can go and collaborate and do deals in a much different way, instead of taking care of, Johnny, who's in the co-living house and it won't, clean up after himself. Let the people who run those take care of that for you. And then you can work on the things that matter to you and to your energy.
Let me say this as someone who almost retired in 2022 with a lot smaller portfolio, like a fraction of this portfolio. And I had a lot of cash flow, but Pace Morby, my mentor, right, said, I may have financial freedom on paper, but I don't have time freedom. And the reason why I no longer want to scale my portfolio is I'm just buying myself more of a job that I did not like. That time I was managing my rentals out of state. I was finding all my own subs. Before I moved out of the area, I was doing a lot of the renovations. I was doing bookkeeping, which if you're like me, you're not actually doing bookkeeping. You're just like scrambling for taxes at the end of the year. I was doing all these things. So every property I was buying meant more work of things I did not care about. Once I started to realize my goal is actual, not just financial freedom, but it's the time freedom that comes with it, that would only come with offloading the parts of the business that I didn't like to do and then focusing on the parts that I did like to do. For me, operations was one of the biggest ones I like to offload. I'm still a big part of it, but I'm not doing the day-to-day operations. What I'm focusing my time and energy on is finding great deals and building those relationships with bird dogs and wholesalers to bring me great deals for me to buy, and raising money from capital partners. So like money and deals, those are my favorite part, the front end of the business. I spend a lot of my time and energy on that, which I enjoy. It's not work for me. I enjoy that part of the business. And then the operations, I delegate as much of that as possible. I hire for that. The more cash flow I get, the more time I'm freeing up by offloading operations, bringing in the right people. And like my asset manager is a huge cheat code for me. Her plus our virtual assistants do a lot of the property management plus some. And then now hiring like fractional COO, that is huge, right? That is huge for me now. But I'm at this place, like the more I make and the more I offload, then the more I make, because then I could focus on the inputs of my business. And as someone who didn't know that, like I didn't realize how detrimental I was to my own business. I was my own worst enemy at, over 2.5 years ago. And then just learning from Pace, right? Like some people come in our community and all they do is they buy deals from all they do is they just buy a deal a month from someone else. Why can't I be that guy? I don't need to be the one doing direct acquisitions. I'll just buy someone else's deals. I'll pay them for their hard work in getting that deal, even if I have to maybe renegotiate it because maybe they didn't structure the best deal, but maybe I can renegotiate it, structure a better deal, still pay them for that work. And then secondarily, some people come into our communities and they raise money from other investors, whether they're raising money from people who want to just get a high earning returns, they want to own, or they're looking to learn. And I kind of combine all three, which makes me really great at raising money because I'm providing people great returns, ownership, and education. So like all of that basically makes it so much easier for me to raise money, and just learning from Pace what to delegate, what not to delegate, or what to delegate and what's the best use of my time. It's very hard to just like offload all of it. You can't offload everything. You got to still do something in your business. But the cool part is the things that I do are more focused on growing, not operations. So the operations, if I stop today, we're good. We won't grow, but we're good on the operations side. That's awesome. Could I delegate? And I do, like some analysis and all that. Sure. But that's kind of the principle that I've really focused on the last 2.5 years, which has allowed me to scale from 2 million to 22 million in like 2 years. It's like literally just implementing that little by little.
I love it. So Michael, does Pad Split take care of evictions? Are they even called evictions?
So like when you have non-paying tenants, like non-paying, there you go, non-paying members on the Pad Split platform, I don't think it's like, yes, you could have to do the full eviction process. They handle their own piece where they try to get them to pay or try to get them to move out, and they'll say, hey, we won't, we'll get you out of here. So they do their own piece. If you have to evict, you have to evict. Like you have to do the eviction. which is fine. Sometimes you have to evict. That's the risk of investing in real estate. The cool thing is when you evict on a pad split property versus like a long-term rental or a short-term rental or whatever, the benefit is that you have one unit that is not paying, one of your 8 bedrooms or one of your 6 bedrooms that's not paying, as opposed to the full house. So maybe you're not making money on that one and you're dealing with eviction on that one room, as opposed to dealing with an eviction on the whole house where you're getting no money for several months collectively. Yeah, so Chino's right. They don't do the full eviction, but they do a variety of strategies to try to get them out before an eviction is necessary. It's kind of what I tried to explain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because eviction, I mean, I've never had to actually evict a tenant. I've worked with most of my tenants, pad split members or tenants, to try to figure out, hey, what's going on here, right? Like, what's going on? How do we solve whatever the problem is? That either gets you caught up to pay your rent, or maybe this isn't the right place for you anymore. Sure, do you have some bad actors? Of course, but on the pad split platform where tenants are rating each other or members rate each other, and you as the host rates members, if they get underneath a certain rating, they're no longer allowed on the pad split platform. So it's against their worst interest to be a non-paying or bad member, because then they'll no longer be able to use that platform. So maybe they have this short-lived not paying rent, but now they'll never be able to use pad split again. Yeah. So was it worth it?
So that's like the carrot and the stick, where it's like they frameworked it or gamified essentially how a member will work and operate in their platform, because it'll be more difficult for them to be able to go find another place using pad split. I will say though, because it was asked, if you're not using pad split, are there other platforms? There's every platform out there. Zillow does it by room now. And arguably probably one of the best ways to go put your rooms out there. There's all these different platforms like Roomies and whatever else. What I found, having sat next to a property management company in my last office, they leverage Airbnb. Airbnb, you could rent by room, and it has the same, arguably, you'll actually have still a high quality guest because of who Airbnb caters to. And in a lot of these things that you just described, Michael, are already innate in the app for Airbnb. Airbnb, you're also rating your guests, and that guest is rating you. So this sort of disciplinary or this review style of managing guests is already integrated into that system. So
Airbnb is a great one. Zillow's a great one. I have a full list of them as well. So if someone wants that, I'll throw it in the Wealth of Real Estate school community, the free community. So I'll throw that list of all the different places that we market it. But mostly every place you're listing a long-term rental, you're also listing you can also list by the room for the most part. If they don't have it yet, they're typically adapting towards that. Like Zillow, I think it was in the last year that they added that. Short-term rental, yeah. So you have you could do, well, not Vrbo. Vrbo's the whole house, but like Airbnb for sure. It's actually cheaper on Airbnb. What we've observed is on average, it's still a much shorter stay. So, I mean, it's much cheaper. The fee from Airbnb is cheaper than on pad split, but pad split is like, they fill the rooms more easily. That's the thing. And they tend to stay for longer. So it just depends. Like they both work well for their different things. Furnish Finder is a great place. So I was doing co-living, honestly.
Furnish Finder.
Yeah, I was basically doing co-living before I formally did it in 2023 through the pad split model. But it was like through, like Furnish Finder and Airbnb and all that, because I always thought if I have a full property and it's not like the right season for that full property to be rented out, I might as well try to rent it out by the room and make some income than none at all. So that's kind of what I was doing before I went really into this as like the main strategy for the whole house. So it was more of a complementary piece before. Now it's like the main strategy.
That makes a lot of sense. Very good. Shoot, I was going to ask you a question because Lisa Monroy has asked about, do you train wholesalers? And I do want to say you do train your wholesalers, and you train them by providing them your buy box. So something that Michael provided a little while ago, and I'll try to repost it here, is he has a buy box link, and that link tells his wholesalers what he's looking for exactly. And I just want to be very clear on expectations with people. If you're a wholesaler and you have my buy box, but shit's not underwriting, I'm going to stop looking at your emails and your texts. So take the time to make sure that a deal is a deal. Now, if I've created a really great relationship with you, so I'd love your feedback on this, Michael. I will tell you, hey, it doesn't work at that, but it will work at this. If I have a good relationship, I'll actually take the time to do that. Do you do that with people who bring you opportunities?
Yes, it just depends. One of the first things I like to ask people is like, what makes this a good deal? Like, why'd you bring me this? Essentially, like, what makes this a good deal? Why do you think this one's a good one for me? My buy box is so loose now. It's basically like every pad split market that has 3-bed, 2-bath, or more, 1,500 square feet or more, like properties, because I'm not the sole buyer anymore. Like, I have plenty of properties. I'm still buying properties, but I also have a community of super investors, almost 70 of them, that are always looking for more co-living deals too. So I can potentially help connect those deals to super investors. That's why it's kind of more broad, because I'm not just, my market is not the market that I'm looking for, but I do tend to ask. And honestly, sometimes I'll give feedback, but really the people that most wholesalers are passively sending you deals, you're just on their CRM and all that. That's fine. However, what I am focusing more on, especially the wealth of real estate community, is I'm going to create like a bird dog training. So basically, it's not just a wholesaler deal, whether you're direct to the seller or agent or you're getting a deal from a wholesaler. I'm going to show you how to analyze it. Like, first of all, is it in a market that we like? Okay, cool. Then is it large enough size? Okay, cool. Then let's start doing some analysis. The more analysis you do, the more you'll get paid as a bird dog. But then it's like, now they're doing a lot of the filtering. They're learning, right? They're learning and they're earning to then be able to develop those skills to then be a buyer. And whenever they want to pivot, instead of bird dogging these deals for an end buyer, they're the actual buyer. So that's kind of the route I'm going next, because a lot of deals from wholesalers come passively. So it's a bird dog.
I definitely want to respect your time. Are you good to stay like an extra 10 minutes over?
Yeah, we could do 10 minutes. That's fine.
Okay, cool. Will you show them your website? Because some people are saying the website's not working, but I want you to showcase to them that the website actually does work.
Okay.
So let's see. Michael's going to bring it up for you guys. We have the link up. You might have forgotten an S on HTTPS or something. I know that a few of you have asked, like, hey, is my deal a deal? Definitely slide into those DMs with Michael, I would presume, and have him take a look at those deals with you and see if it's maybe a viable opportunity. Is that fair to say, Michael?
That's fair. Or post them on Wealth of Real Estate, and someone else will probably buy them. The super investors are in there as well. They're looking for deals to buy. Plenty of ways. It's not just me as the end buyer, but this is the buy box one. That's the one I dropped. We'll do it again.
Do me a favor. Will you drop it into the private chat? And then I'll also post it on my YouTube.
Boom.
Thank you, good sir. So I will also post it for you guys, so it's easier to just click on it when you're on my YouTube versus having to navigate to Michael's. So
this is why I share this one, because it's the free school community right here. You can just click that. There you go. You could sign up. We have over 1,000 members. That's insane. So you can sign up for absolutely for free in there. There's trainings for you. Even some co-living stuff in there, creative finance, whatever, all this good stuff in here.
I love these graphics. Good job, Michael.
I paid someone. I wish I was that creative, but
no. Are you kidding me? Every dollar earned has you taking either the time or understanding of where that money is going. So I'll still give you credit.
Thank you. And then I got my Instagram, my YouTube. So I literally I'll just show you guys real fast. My YouTube, it's like this call right now is live, right? And then I provide literally tons of trainings on whatever, tons of trainings, co-living, why it's my favorite strategy, whatever, all this good stuff. Obviously,
do you also provide training on how to make like the best steak ever?
I should do that. I should record that because people like that.
You really should. I'm just saying.
I am pretty good at steak making. Here, you can get the free creative finance calculator as well, back in that buy box page. Free creative finance calculator, literally just drop an email and it'll send to you. And then my buy box, basically very loose right now because of the fact that send it over. If it hits a lot of these criteria, send it over, and then someone will look at it and then whether it's me or someone else will be the buyer. If you want to partner on deals, come become a capital partner, simple form. And then this talks a little bit about super investors and the free wealth, the real estate community. So if you're already a real estate investor who's looking to take it to the next level and your main goal is buying and holding real estate, well, that's what super investors is for. Let's set up some time to talk if that's what you want to do. That is a paid community. That's not wealth, the real estate is the free one. The only other thing I would share is I'm doing a free training, or not a free training. I'm doing a capital raise for 30 Texas co-living units. So 30 rooms in Texas, 4 properties. This is going to be tomorrow at 5 p.m. PST. We already have, well, maybe more than 70 people registered. So we have almost 100 people registered. Come whether you actually want to be a partner on this deal. For as little as $5,000, you can literally own this deal with us. You can either own this deal with us with fellow super investor Jeff Peterson, or you could just come in and learn. And so you can raise your own money through the fractional platform, whatever. I'm going to drop that link. And drop that link if anyone's interested in coming to, oh, whoops, that's not it. There it is. So if anyone wants to come to that, whether you want to actually invest on this deal or you want to, or you just want to learn. I even put the last capital raise. If you are familiar with the last one I did, where I did 25 co-living rentals in Georgia, we raised $820,000 in less than 72 hours. My goal was $675,000. We did that in like less than 48 hours. Incredible, insane. And this one's even more accessible. You can come in for as little as $5,000, 30 rooms. So in Texas. So this is awesome. So yeah, guys, just wanted to share that. And if you want to learn, or just, or actually even partner and own this portfolio together. So
that's so cool. And I think what we'll have to do is have you back because I think fractional is a super leveraging tool, especially if you're somebody who is looking to scale your business and make it happen much, much faster. I had the privilege of spending dinner with Stella last night and having her kind of give me the rundown, because I'm like, how does this work? How do you not like trigger SEC rules? And then I was like, oh, your app just really is a club app. Like you're you create investor clubs in the app, and then you have to run it using the investor club requirements that the SEC has, and the tool itself like covers that all for you. So if you were to get audited, you're like, boom, here's your log. I freaking love that so much. Like when she told me that, I was like, now it makes so much sense. Like at first I was very, very hesitant to get myself involved with fractional because I didn't understand the power that tool is. And the fact that, I'm going to say this, but the fact that a lady came up with it, I was like, hell yeah, you're like the next lady, Mark Zuckerberg, at least from the investment side of things in technology. So I'm super, super excited. She's going to be here on the podcast on the 30th of April. So in 2 weeks. But I would love to have you on and kind of explain your personal deals and how you've structured them so that you can, because I am curious, when you have so many people who can vote on decisions, like how do you keep all those chefs in this kitchen like aligned? So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm more than happy to talk about whether it's the $800,000 raise previously or the close to $500,000 raise this time. In my experience from start to finish, I'm happy to go over all that stuff. And I have some videos on my YouTube kind of the capital raise, and then kind of some of the behind the scenes and where I recommend using it and where I think it may not make a lot of sense. But yeah, huge shout out to Stella. Even better woman, yes, but also an investor who created technology for investors. Like that's the coolest thing. I'm so sick and tired of people just creating stuff. Like I don't like to work with people who are not already investors themselves. Like in the sense of, I don't want to work with a real estate agent if they're not a real estate investor. We're just speaking more of the same language. Like lenders, I want to work with lenders that are more real estate investors. I guess I should, primary partners and lenders, that's one thing. I'm talking about like traditional, like a DSCR lender or whatever. I would prefer to work with someone who already.
I actually love that you said this. I love that you said this, because I know for a fact that you and I did not talk about this, but that is why I'm actually creating Total Agent Coach. Total Agent Coach is so that folks who have licenses in lending or have licenses as real estate agents or have license in life insurance, or if they haven't gotten those licenses and they can leverage what that looks like, they can create, like, one deal can become so many more deals if they actually understand how they can be a better representative when they're thinking more like an investor. So Michael, huge shout out for you. So
I do want to say, yes, Stella being a woman who created this business, that is incredible. I just do want to highlight that and shout that out as well. That is sick. But like I'm saying, a real estate investor who then created real estate investor tools, that is like the best thing. Who knows better than
people actually do it?
The people who are actually doing and understand the struggles, the good and the bad, to then create tools and products for the people that's literally why I love sharing my calculators and my templates and scripts and the way I buy deals. Cause it's like, I'm someone who is doing the thing. And that's really what that's the way, I don't know. I feel like that just works better than trying to do it from someone who does not know what they're talking about. They're just trying to sell some product. That's the worst. I guess that's
I think you're talking about people who are really authentic and that it's part of the fabric of how they operate. When they have a solid experience and understanding of what it looks like to be that investor, what it looks like to manage all of these problems, honestly. And I think I've said this before, like, the bigger the problem you solve, the bigger the paycheck you get. And when you have a fiduciary, because a lender is a fiduciary, a real estate agent is a fiduciary, a life insurance agent is a fiduciary. That's what those licenses represent, meaning I have your best interests in mind. If you don't understand what those best interests are, guess what? You actually don't have a real fiduciary because you have no idea what those interests are. So that is something I'm trying to solve myself, because I do hear that a lot, Michael, where people are like, why would I work with an agent who doesn't know how to think like an investor? I'm like, okay, that's a problem I would like to help solve. So I love this so much.
You're the perfect person to solve that. So that's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you so much for, like, stepping up, Michael. And I know that I feel like I've had a front row of witnessing how you are growing as an investor, as a public speaker, as somebody creating content, and all the value you give to so many. I just want to give you so much kudos for just the way that I've had the pleasure of seeing how this. I'm, like, so excited for us to be like 60 years old and talk about, like, do you remember when blah 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 blah, like,
crazy.
Yeah.
Because I've shared when I first joined in September 2022 and the people that I connected with, and for people to have seen my journey and for me to see other people's journeys, like Kara said, like, that's literally following individual journeys is so incredible. And to see it happen in, like, real life, like, that's why I love the Sub2 community and us seeing this growth. And then you're right, there's a lot of things when I do learn. I communicate a little bit better than I used to. Like, I don't talk as fast and I try not to interrupt as much. To see that is probably a huge upgrade compared to where I was at. Especially you and I have connected so many times over the last several years, grabbed dinner and hung out and all that stuff too. So it's cool.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And I cannot wait to see. And it's only been 2.5 years. Can't wait to see another 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, especially with pace, leading leading at the front.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Michael. Guys, give it up for Michael. Make sure that you're following him on Instagram, following him on YouTube. Check out his buy box. And then, of course, if you guys are interested, tomorrow he is having his webinar to talk about his 30 unit in Texas. So make sure you're signing up. If at all, just go get yourself a good education about what it takes to put a deal like that together. And you'd have front row witness to how you pitch a deal, because part of the art of this too, and I was talking to Stella a little bit about this yesterday, it's not whether or not your deal is good as well, is how good is the jockey? So how good is Michael? And could Michael mitigate the problems that come up? Could Michael have the resources to manage to those issues? And then, is he enthusiastic about this deal? Part of it is sales, and so hopefully that raise will go without a hitch, and I'm looking forward to signing up.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys. Thank you, Ingrid. I appreciate you. I appreciate everyone else in the comments. This was really fun. You guys interact a lot, so that's really cool.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael. All right, you guys. The Explain It podcast is ending now. Please check us out next week, Wednesday, and every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Arizona time. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.